to present an award on behalf of an organization that does so much good throughout this world. Carl, the National Endowment of Democracy, have a very big place in my heart and in my consciousness for the work that they do. We in Congress like to speak a lot. They act and they do. They write, they push, they advocate in so many different areas of democracy, rule of law, and respect for human rights. I remember, I think Vin Weber was a partner back in the mid-'80s when what is now quite a well-established institution in our country, the National Endowment for Democracy, wasn't quite taken for granted, and we faced an onslaught from both the right and the left every year on the funding of this organization. So it has grown, it has strengthened, and it is still doing the very work that it was created to do. And so it's a wonderful privilege for me to have a part in presenting an honor on behalf of a very remarkable individual. People have spoken about him already this evening. In the few months that I've been chairman of this committee, I've gotten even an expanded sense of the role that Tom Lantos had in impacting brave people in many countries around the world who were fighting for greater dignity for their people, for human rights, and for the democratic cause. It's quite stunning where his name, his role, his actions have come up, and this is only in 3 or 4 months. Tom, of course, was a great supporter of the NED. In fact, all the chairmen of the committee have been. Dante Fascell and Lee Hamilton, Tom, of course, as well as Henry Hyde and Ben Gilman have all cared very deeply about the work that the National Endowment for Democracy does. There's a lot of awards we presented to brave Chinese people tonight. I think Tom would have been very pleased to see these awards going to individuals who strived so mightily to bring freedom to China. He was a good friend of China in many ways, but he was also one of the most unrelenting critics on the subject of human rights. He was a partner of Frank's and Chris's on so many of these efforts that they made reference to. Tom and Annette shared a lifelong commitment to upholding the rights of the oppressed. As people who have known all too well what authoritarian regimes could do, having lived through 2 of them in their native Hungary, Tom and Annette's experiences spurred them to work for the benefit of humankind. As the co-founder and co-chairman with Frank now for many years, before that I believe John Porter, of the Congressional Human Rights Caucus, and with Annette deeply caring and working side by side all those years, Tom made the most of his high-profile opportunity to rally people everywhere against the darkness of despotism. And Annette, you came to see me after Tom passed away, and your one request was not about something material or something specific in terms of an honor, but to make sure that that human rights task force continues and that we remain here in Congress committed to it. Frank Wolf worked hard to make sure that happened, and I'm very pleased to tell you, as you I'm sure have learned recently by the announcement from the Speaker, that that caucus is going to be even further institutionalized and staffed, and joining Frank as a co-chair of that caucus will be a deeply committed colleague of ours, Jim McGovern, as the Democratic co-chair to work with Frank. Jim, both as staffer and as member, for many years has demonstrated his interest in that issue, and I can't think of a better person to succeed Tom in that role. So now I have the honor of presenting to both Annette Lantos' mother and daughter, 2 people who have gone through a great deal in these last months, but who truly shared Tom's vision and Tom's work in every sense of the word in a way that very few families in this business do. It's my honor to present them with the Democracy Award and ask them to come on up and
We have just returned from a long trip all over Israel, Hungary, and Los Angeles, and everywhere, of course, we are getting all these honors and recognitions for Tom. It's very, very hard for me because I would like him to be here personally to accept it. He does deserve everything that people have attributed to him. He really, in fact, was. He really, in fact, embodied a great champion for human rights and probably the most eloquent spokesman for it. As you know, he was one of the original charter founders of the National Endowment for Democracy, which was incredibly important, actually a governmental organization. Most of the organizations, human rights organizations that champion human rights are NGOs, but we were so proud that the National Endowment is part of our government and is supported by it, and Tom was one of the major supporters of this organization. I'm very deeply grateful for this award, which will join many other awards that Tom has received, and we hope and pray that your work will continue, and hopefully someday we might have to go out of business because democracy and human rights will prevail in the world. May not happen in our lifetime, but we hope so. Thank you very much.
We're trying to get the picture.
Folks, I hate to do this, but if you guys would sit, I could get my flash to get this. Terribly sorry.
He does this every year for us. He's the best that there is. Thank you.
I want to just add that I forgot to introduce my wonderful daughter, who's also sort of my clone. Her name is Annette too. Annette Lantos, and Lantos, and we have been traveling together. And she is also a tremendous supporter in all the work that we have done on human rights, and sometimes has been the brain behind the throne.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to see these wonderful Lantos family members carry on this proud tradition. We're thrilled to do this tonight with you.